Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Happy episode 193. Not far to 200. I'm super excited because I'm going to have some really cool stuff coming up to celebrate hitting 200 podcasts over the next 6-8 weeks or so. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. This week, I'm talking about the negative side effects of dieting, common health imbalances diets may fuel, and why ending dieting actually supports your health. I'm going to be switching things up a little bit as well with the podcast regarding the flow. So I hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to start sharing something new every week, whether it's a word, a learning, something personal, just something to switch it up a bit. And I'm all about a little bit of change here as I've been doing this podcast solo for like almost 3 years, and it's kind of hard to believe. So this week, my word of the week is awareness, and it's very fitting, especially when it comes to your body and learning how to listen to your body and being in tune with your body. And I think it really ties into the theme of the podcast this week, which is really all diets are all about a lack of awareness. And I really hope that through this podcast, for the clients that I coach, the content that I put out, that it helps you to build some awareness so you can learn how to listen to your body and learn what doesn't feel good for your body. And hopefully part of that is ditching the diet mentality. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca /podcast/193. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the No Sugarcoating Podcast on all podcast apps. You can click the link in the show notes and listen to all episodes at amberapproved.ca /podcast. And my website rather is like so close to being live. I can't wait to share it with you. I will announce it and we will celebrate it all together. Is the scale dictating your happiness? It definitely used to for me. It took over my life. I had so many obsessive thoughts about it. And if I hopped on the scale and saw a number that I wasn't happy with, I was so upset for the rest of the day, and it would often actually trigger more emotional eating and self-sabotage. And if I saw a number that I liked, then I would allow myself to be happy, but it was very, very limited to a number on the scale. And through the summer, I'd hide at home on hot days if I didn't like the number I saw, for fear I'd have to wear something more revealing. I wouldn't float the river. I wouldn't date. I wouldn't go hang out with friends. And I really just thought, well, next summer I'll get to enjoy myself. And I'd write off the current summer and again be hiding at home. And I couldn't get that time back. I don't want you to regret not being able to get the time back either. And when I started to build confidence and acceptance for the current body I lived in, I finally felt peace. I came to know that regardless of my weight, I could choose to enjoy my life fully now, and I could choose to feel and look beautiful no matter any number, because the number truly no longer mattered. And it's so liberating because my boyfriend and I just got back from a vacation, and I wore this really cute bathing suit, and it was the cut and everything was really cool. And I just absolutely loved it and felt so good because it's not about my body being a certain size now or the bathing suit being a certain size. It is about me choosing things that feel good for my body and loving my body no matter what. And feeling happy and healthy truly is what matters to me and has for a while now. And I really want that to be your focus as well. So you can do the same by learning how to feel comfortable and safe in your body, as when you do that, you realize life is happening now and you want to enjoy your summer to the fullest, and fall and winter and the holiday seasons coming up. So don't let a number on a scale dictate or interfere with your vacation, your plans, your date, your love life, your personal life, your job. I want you to feel so empowered and confident within yourself. So I'm having a summer coaching sale that is lasting for the rest of July. So if you want to take advantage of the significant savings on my 6-month and 1-year coaching programs, you have until July 31st to book your 30-minute body freedom call with me. So you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line summer coaching sale so that we can book you in. The call, booking the call secures the savings, and we'll talk about your health journey, where you're seeking support, where you're struggling, and I will share with you how I support my clients. So I definitely look forward to connecting with you. Again, you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca. So if you would like to support the podcast, you can leave a review and a 5-star rating if that resonates with you. I, of course, want you to share what you're learning about the podcast, why you like the podcast, anything that the podcast has taught you or what inspires you about it. Those are great examples of things to leave. And what it does is it really helps potential listeners to read through and understand what you guys think and how the podcast impacts you. So you can leave a review on your phone or computer by going to podcasts and searching for the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Even if you're already subscribed to me, you'll need to find the show in this way. And if you have questions, you can submit them, info@amberapproved.ca. I just ask the questions are no more than 150 words in length, as health histories needs more support and private coaching would probably be a better fit. And of course, if you are struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, dieting, digestive issues, inflammation, potential hormone imbalances, you are last on your priority list and self-care continues to be a struggle. You're frustrated with your weight, your body image, and it's consuming your life. And you're just like, I don't know what to do or where to start. Well, my friends, you are in the right place, because these are all of the topics I will continue to talk about, diving into the habits and mindsets to set you on a different path. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So the negative side effects of dieting, I think that this is so profound, and I wanted to talk about this today because I've had many personal experiences of my own in the past when I was struggling with food addiction and dieting and body image. And obviously pretty much like 99% of my clients have struggled with this, diet mentality and obsession with diets and control, and really struggling with it a lot. And so I really was inspired to record this podcast today after all of the different, negative impacts that I've just witnessed diets create for myself and for the people that I work with. So I really think that, both physical symptoms and emotional symptoms can be fueled by dieting, and quote unquote messing up on a diet makes a person feel frustrated and angry and sad and guilty and not good enough. And like, what's the point? I might as well just go eat whatever. I'm a failure. And people get so hard on themselves when they fail on their diet. And that's honestly because diets set you up to fail. They're not realistic usually. There's some very extreme in some cases. A lot of diets you have to be perfect on for their claims of them, working and claim to your success of health, which is to me not realistic. And a lot of them can be have a very negative impact on your relationship with food, which can fuel emotional eating and binging, which can lead to more restrictive behaviors, wanting to go on more diets, and the vicious cycle just continues. All the while, you're just physically and emotionally feel overwhelmed. You feel worse. You feel exhausted. Your symptoms get worse and more intense. Your weights, the weight that you want to lose is not coming off, or it's not staying off, and you keep yo-yoing back and forth and losing and gaining, losing and gaining. And this is emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, energetically draining. It's just draining on all levels. And it starts to then impact every area of your life. So not just you, but it starts to impact your family, your kids, your spouse, your friends, your coworkers, your, every aspect. And it costs people a lot to stay stuck in this vicious cycle. So there are many negative side effects of dieting, and I really wanted to go through some of the most common diets that I see this happening with. And I'm not saying that everyone who does these diets is going to experience this or is experiencing this. So this is kind of like the disclaimer. And I know some people have success with their eating style and the way that they're eating. And so good for you. I want you to celebrate if you have a healthy relationship with food in your body and you're doing, you're eating a certain way and you really feel so much better doing it. Also, know to be flexible though, because for some people what has worked for years, all of a sudden they need to change. I know I have a good friend who was vegan for 15 years and she had to start eating meat again because she was starting to feel unwell and it wasn't working for her anymore. And kudos for her for making the changes to honor her body. And I know even as of late, I've gone through different changes where I love to eat, a reasonable amount of fat because I know fats are good and they're satiating and they keep me fuller for longer with my protein and my carbs. But I went through a little bit of my gallbladder got a little overwhelmed, and I had to actually, change up and add in more healthy carbs and proteins and pull back on my fat a little bit more because it actually was not making me feel good. And so it's all about learning how to have awareness. Keyword of the day or the week in the podcast is awareness. And from a place of awareness, you can make changes. But if you're not aware, like for me, thinking of if I was not aware and I didn't make the changes, knowing that something just didn't feel right, who knows, like how many symptoms I would have today, instead of going, oh, that doesn't feel right. I'm going to make some changes. That feels good. Now I feel good again. And I know in a few weeks, I'll probably switch things up a little bit more again, but it's all about flow and flexibility. But it's because I'm aware, and it took me time to build awareness. But I think learning how to be aware of your body and understand your current state of health so that you can give your body what he or she is asking for is one of the biggest gifts and one of the most empowering things that all of you and the entire world can learn and give themselves, because then you're going to, go, okay, you know what, if I have these health imbalances, this way of eating or this kind of diet may not be good for me. And in fact, no diet right now is probably a good idea, nor do I ever really think they are. But maybe it would just inspire you to go, instead of going on another diet, maybe I need to overcome my emotional eating, or maybe I'm going to focus on like supporting my hormones or whatever actually it is that needs my attention, versus just going on another diet and probably making all of your symptoms worse. But again, I respect and know everyone chooses to eat differently. What I really want to acknowledge is all of the people who diet out of desperation to lose weight or to get healthy, or, fear because they feel insecure with their body image and the way that they look, but they first don't know their current state of health, their health imbalances, their symptoms, their challenges, and they just blindly jump into these different diets because it's popular right now, it's a fad, a celebrity or some big influencer is endorsing it. I think that that's the problem, and that's one of the biggest breakdowns. And let's face it, the diet industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. They want you to fail because they know you're going to come back and keep spending money, and they're going to keep making money. If the diet industry worked, everyone would go on one diet and be good and all would be fine, I think. But it's a huge money maker. So I think it's so important that we start to build awareness. Probably going to say that a lot today, to learn how to listen to your body and to get the support and guidance with getting physically healthy and emotionally healthy so that you can be safe and mindful with how you navigate food and your health journey. So these are in no particular order, but these are 3 different diets or eating styles or whatever you want to call them that I wanted to address today, because they, whilst all of these may have some benefits in some way, I think with my audience and the people that I deal with and the women that I work with, sometimes these eating styles can have a lot of really negative impacts on health and well-being. So the first one is vegan. And while I totally respect some people for moral or ethical reasons that they choose to be vegan, which great, like I hope it works for you, I've seen far more people get quite sick from choosing this diet. Low vitamin B12 and iron levels, so it's important to supplement. I see a lot of women get thyroid imbalances that are made worse because of all of the potential thyroid inhibiting foods. And if you don't know if you have an underactive thyroid or adrenal fatigue or anything like that, and you're thinking, oh, vegan's going to be great for me, it could actually make those things worse potentially, because there's certain foods that are stressing out your hormones, your digestion. If you don't know if you have high estrogen or you're susceptible to high estrogen, if your liver doesn't metabolize your estrogen properly, then you could end up with, estrogen levels skyrocketing and getting estrogen dominance and struggling to lose weight and increasing your risk of estrogen dominating cancers and all sorts of other things, because you're eating a lot of foods that are rich in estrogen. Whilst a lot of plant-based foods have lots of nutrients, if you have certain imbalances, especially estrogen, eating an abundance of those estrogen-rich foods and not realizing it can have a negative impact on your health. As one quick example, when I was vegan, I ate lots of sweet potatoes, hummus, chickpeas, beans, peas. Did I say beets already? And then obviously through like all of what I put my body through, but I ended up with really high estrogen, and I then upon looking back, once I became well-versed with hormones and estrogen, was going, oh, well, goodness, I was eating so many estrogen-rich foods on top of the cortisol imbalance that I had. And being vegan was actually making it worse because my digestion kept getting worse because the food was so fibrous and it was fueling binge eating because I had so many carb and sugar cravings, and the food wasn't satiating me because me personally, I just thrive more off of having more animal protein in my diet. And I know everyone's different, and some people thrive off of more plants and more fat and carbs or whatever, but it was making my digestive system worse, which was making me have more inflammation, which was stressing my hormones out more. And then I ended up with this trifecta of underactive thyroid, adrenal fatigue, estrogen dominance, and I gained a lot of weight very quickly, even though I was eating well and exercising. But it was because of these imbalances that I was fueling, as well as the food addiction. So I was emotionally eating, and actually the being vegan made my emotional eating worse personally for me. And I know some of my clients have observed that as well. And I have observed, unless you're really dialing in on your protein, fat, and carb intake and making sure that you're getting enough plant-based protein, it can be difficult. And a lot of people go vegan that I witness, and they are trying to promote a healthier lifestyle, but then they are triggered to binge and they're losing control with food. And vegan isn't necessarily more healthy, because if they're making all these vegan products that have like 40 ingredients in them and it's all processed, like how is that better than, eating something that has one ingredient in it that comes from nature? I'm all about moderation. I don't believe in you have to eat perfect and fully clean all the time. It's all about balance. But if your quote unquote diet consists of tons of processed foods, even though it's all plant-based, and there's tons of soy and MSG and additives and preservatives, it's no better to me. So at the end of the day, it's always important to look at your labels and look at what you're putting into your body. But emotional eating, hormone imbalances, digestion gets worse because of all the fiber, bloating, inflammation. There can be many potential side effects for people who choose this eating style for the wrong reasons. And I can't stress that enough. It's for all the wrong reasons. I went vegan because I read a book and it scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm probably too acidic and I need to just eat plants and I need to stop eating meat and it's going to help me overcome my food addiction. And it did all the opposite that I wanted it to do. And I also didn't know my current state of health. And if I would have known that and had awareness at that time, I probably would have made an empowering decision to not be vegan because it did not work for me and I don't think it ever will. I love adding lots of plants to my meals and snacks, and I enjoy plants now and my hormones are balanced so I can have those estrogen-rich foods, and I love hummus and rice crackers and veggies and things like that, but I'm going to always need meat. I just know that. And I know everyone's different. So if you're a plant person, good for you. We all need to honor and respect what works for us and not shame ourselves or anyone else for the way that we eat. I think that's important as a side note. The next eating style, so ketogenic eating. This is so big right now. It's such a fad. And it has to, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but it has to be one of the most dangerous and restrictive eating styles I've ever witnessed. Because from what I've witnessed, and trust me, I get dozens and dozens and dozens of women every month reaching out to me, talking to me, asking me about, should I do keto? I've been told to, I've read this influencer, this person, or I've listened to this podcast. It promises X amount of weight gain and I get to eat a lot of fat. So it's like great. Some people notice their cravings diminish because they're eating more fat and it's balancing their blood sugar. But unfortunately, what I'm seeing is it's fueling eating disorders. It's reawakening binge eating, emotional eating, bulimia in women after they've had stints of recovery with their eating disorders. It's creating food fears where people have a fear of eating carbs, healthy carbs like carrots, bell peppers, apples, let alone natural sweeteners, things like brown rice, maple syrup, healthy carbs even. And this to me is an epidemic. It's a concern and it's a serious problem because none of that is a healthy relationship with food. And sure, some people thrive off of more carbs and some thrive off of less. But to completely pretty much cut out a food group and then have to be perfect on this eating style to see certain results is concerning. Hence why I think it's fueling eating disorders and unhealthy perfectionist mindsets. The all or nothing mindset, having to be all in with food, having to be perfect with food is so unhealthy, and it's so triggering because perfectionism does not exist. And then you end up on the spectrum where you're swinging far the other way after you quote unquote mess up and eat an apple, or maybe you have like a piece of dark chocolate and then you swing way the other way because you think you've messed up, and now you're binge eating and you're emotionally eating and you're then upset and you're being hard on yourself because you've quote unquote messed up when you just innocently had a small piece of chocolate or an apple. Or even if you had a full-blown cinnamon bun that was full of sugar and carbs, it's the mindset and the relationship you have with food that is, it dictates so many things. And in fact, I think that this is going to be a really good podcast topic. So I'm just going to take a moment and write it down. So it's that perfectionism. It's labeling foods as good and bad, healthy, unhealthy, clean and unclean. I can't and can have this. I shouldn't have this. Hence why it fuels eating disorders and unhealthy relationships with food. Again, I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of women come to me seeking support after keto has damaged their bodies, their hormones, fueled an unhealthy relationship with food. It's pulling their energy levels down. They're having trouble sleeping. They're binging on carbs and then restricting on keto and having more weight gain happen because they can't stay in ketosis. And of course, unless you're perfect, it doesn't work. And then because of the binging and deprivation, inflammation goes up, digestion gets worse. Too high of pork and dairy consumption are also fueling inflammation, increasing C-reactive protein levels, food sensitivities, leaky gut, acid reflux and stomach acid imbalances. The liver gets overwhelmed. The gallbladder can get overwhelmed. Again, there may be some people that thrive off of this, so great if that's you. Maybe if you have a serious medical condition and you temporarily need to do something like this to get better. But still, it just for me doesn't feel in alignment at all. It doesn't feel healthy. I'm just not a supporter of something that I've witnessed be so damaging to so many people. And I can just imagine how many people I have not connected with, or I have not read in some thread that have talked about how damaging it's been for them. So I can't stress enough how much I would encourage people to stay away from this. Again, it's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, but it has created a lot of havoc for a lot of people. The next one is fasting or juice fasting. So again, just like with keto, there may be the odd person that can do this and that this works for and they see benefit from. But I find, again, in my circle, a lot of the followers and listeners and my clients are looking to quick fixes that are going to help them lose weight fast, but they're often extreme and they're dangerous in some aspect and they don't support their current state of health. I often find people or, companies promoting juice fasting and fasting. They're promising the weight loss that will happen and the energy levels that will improve and how your appetite levels will regulate. And so again, maybe for the odd person that works for, but if your body is completely out of whack, you have lots of symptoms, you're an emotional eater, you have a food addiction and eating disorder, you're obsessed with weight, you're fighting with your body. And again, that is, to me, when those kinds of things are happening, doing things like this, I would not advise because it is a slippery slope. You can throw your hunger hormones off. Your hormones, of course, can go further out of balance. You can increase and decrease your appetite levels to extremes, which is not supportive of your health. It can fuel binge eating, emotional eating, weight gain. And it can throw off your digestion. You can end up with, acid reflux and heartburn, sleep imbalances, blood sugar imbalances. There's just so many things that can be impacted here. And any action that you're taking based out of fear or desperation to lose weight or have a certain looking body, that's not an empowering reason to pick things like this that can have such a negative impact on your body. I just think it's so important that we understand why we want to do these things. And truly understand that if it is fear, worry, guilt, desperation, I don't like my body, maybe this is what I need to do before I go on vacation, maybe you're getting married or you're going on a trip and you want to lose a bunch of weight fast and these things promise to help you to do so. It's to really understand that desperation and that want to make the change quickly, but to understand more deeply the negative impacts that it has on your health and well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, in the long term. And really ask yourself, is that something that you truly want to put your body through? Which brings me to my second point, which is common health imbalances diets may fuel. So you notice I say may. I'm not saying that this is going to happen to you if you do these things. I can't even say something like that, but this may be happening for you. It could happen to you if you continue on this vicious cycle of extreme diets. I see a lot of commonalities in the people that I end up working with, and I experienced all of these things personally as well. And they all happen because of the way the body gets so stressed out physically, mentally, emotionally by the diet, weight loss, emotional eating mentality. So I see lots of cravings, salt, sugar, carbs, unhealthy carbs though, usually, pastas and cheeses and dairy and refined foods and fast food. And I think everything in moderation, but when we're binging on a whole pizza and going through the drive-through and ordering a bunch of different food and binging on it, that's not supportive of your current state of health. And then, with cravings and overeating and dieting and fasting and keto and all these different things, your blood sugar gets thrown out of whack. Stress levels throw your blood sugar out of whack, lack of sleep, hormone imbalances, and then your appetite levels are all over the place. And maybe you're the kind of person who never feels hungry, and so you barely eat and you're exhausted though. Or maybe you're the kind of person who eats regularly, but you're never satisfied. And maybe that's because you're not eating in a way that is supportive of your current state of health. And again, if you're not aware and you don't have body awareness, you are not going to know what to give your body. And I think I may even talk about body awareness in the podcast next week and explain that more thoroughly so you guys have a better understanding. So blood sugar imbalances and cravings are huge, and those both can fuel emotional eating and self-sabotage with food and make it feel really difficult to stick to your quote-unquote restrictive diet. Hormone imbalances. So I see lots of people with adrenal fatigue, high cortisol, low cortisol, which is part of adrenal fatigue, and your adrenal glands get exhausted and you're tired and you have salt and sugar cravings and you're not sleeping well and you feel puffy, you feel bloated, you're hanging on to weight around the midsection. And if you have adrenal imbalances for long enough, this can also fuel more digestive imbalances, digestive sensitivity, food sensitivities, inflammation. Then your thyroid can become stressed out. And whilst it may look quote unquote normal to your doctor, if you're having cold hands and feet, you're having hair loss, your eyebrows are thinning, you're struggling to lose weight and you're gaining really easily, and you're tired, and especially upon waking and you're moody, these could be potential signs that your thyroid and your adrenal glands may be stressed out. And then you can end up with the estrogen going too high, and then it becomes really difficult to lose weight because your fat cells are so full of estrogen, and that can make the body more toxic. And in the long term, it can increase your risk for estrogen dominating imbalance like cancer. And I just don't even like saying that word. But we don't want that to happen. We want to prevent. And I think if people built awareness with their bodies and built a healthy relationship with food and regularly got their hormones checked, and it was like an important part of your health routine and you knew how to navigate those kinds of things, I think we'd prevent so much illness from happening, because the body is trying to always balance, but it's that we're always getting in the way and throwing a bunch of stressors in the way, and we don't know. And when we don't know what's going on with our body, how can we possibly change or take action? And again, it's a lack of awareness. And it's not your fault. We're not taught it. And unless you go after it yourself or you start to work with someone who can really educate you and support you, you don't know. And so I think it's important for us to be champions for our health and to get the support from somebody who resonates with you to help you with these things. So if it resonates to reach out to me, take advantage of the coaching cell. If it resonates for you to reach out to someone else, please do, because you will not regret getting a really high level of support to help you with these things. Other health imbalances diets may fuel. Digestive imbalances like gas, uncomfortable bloating, liver overwhelm, gallbladder stress, that pain in the upper right abdomen, that could be signs of liver or gallbladder imbalance. And it's important to understand those things because let's say, as an example, say you had no idea that your gallbladder was full of gallstones, and then you decided to go on keto and you're eating loads and loads and loads and loads of fat, and your gallbladder is having trouble producing the bile to help emulsify and break down your fats. And then all of a sudden one day, one of those little gallstones gets stuck in your bile duct and you end up having a gallbladder attack, and then they tell you need to limit your fat intake or stop eating fat or whatever. And it's like, well, how are you going to do that if you're eating keto? Or what if keto fuels that? Just one example of many. I've had clients who come to me saying they tried to do different eating styles like keto because it promised it would help to resolve their adrenal fatigue and their hormone imbalances, and it made them worse. And I think part of that is because I don't think it's possible for any diet to claim and promise things like that, because each individual person is so different and has different things going on. And I also think that there's so many aspects of the health journey. It's not just about, hormones and digestion. It's also about what's your relationship with food, your stressors, your sleep, your mindset, your emotions that you feel regularly, what kind of emotional past do you have? All these things play a role in your health. And so when a diet claims that it's going to give you all these results, I think that's just a huge red flag, because there's just no possible way that one diet or one eating style or one change is going to resolve everything. It takes multiple small changes over a longer period of time, hence moving away from the quick fixes to make those changes. So I see a lot of digestive imbalances with my clients, and I personally went through that as well as candida, gut flora imbalances, not fun stuff. Low energy and poor sleep are very common. I see a lot of my clients low energy throughout the day, energy lulls in the afternoon, waking and not feeling rested, having troubles falling asleep, having trouble staying asleep. And that makes people irritable. It doesn't make you feel good. It makes you frustrated. It makes you have a low mood. It makes you feel kind of frumpy. It may make you feel puffy and bloated, and that doesn't feel good either. And as we have all these symptoms continue on, maybe your PMS symptoms are really bad. Maybe your cycle is all over the place. Maybe you haven't had it in a long time. Maybe your cycle is really heavy. You're always cramped and bloated and moody before, and it's really, really unbearable. This to me is not normal for us to have all these heightened symptoms. This is a sign to me that the body is quite significantly out of balance, because when I work with my clients, and this happened to me as well, the more balanced my body became, the healthier my relationship with my body and food became, and I dealt with the digestion and hormones and inflammation and all those pieces, my PMS went to nothing. And literally now it's just like, essentially I get a tiny little cramp and then it just shows up. And I'm like, okay, there it is. Whereas before I'd get like awful breast tenderness and awful cramps and cravings, and I'd like so much water retention and moodiness, and I'd get so tired, and it was pretty unbearable. And I know a lot of clients of mine have had, similar experiences. And same with my clients who are in menopause. They're having awful hot flashes and trouble sleeping. And they're like, oh, well, my doctor told me I'm just going to gain weight. And I'm like, no, like this is not what you should just allow to happen. Like this is because there's imbalances going on that we can investigate, and we can identify what those imbalances are. And then we can support them in simple, easy ways that support your health and well-being, and you can be free of them, or you can really minimize them. And I'm such a believer in that there's always a possibility and there's always a way. But first we have to get these big stressors like diets that are restrictive and not supportive of your current state of health out of the way. Of course, and this is one of the biggest things, but I find diets often fuel emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, and different kinds of eating disorders. Unhealthy relationships with food, restrictive mindsets, food fears, labeling foods as good and bad. I can't have this. I shouldn't have this. Feeling uneasy having certain foods around you. This is all signs of an unhealthy relationship with food. It's okay. You're not alone, and it's safe to reach out and get help. Don't be embarrassed, truly. I can speak for this from myself and the hundreds of women that I've helped and the thousands that I've talked to that have listened to this podcast, and men as well, that it's totally something you don't need to be ashamed about if you're struggling with emotional eating or some kind of eating disorder. And I highly encourage you to reach out and get support. Of course, diets can fuel metabolism issues and slow metabolism, and you can have weight gain or rapid weight loss that comes quickly back to the weight gain. And then there's just this vicious cycle, and that has such an impact on your mood and, again, every area of life. So I want to spend the last couple of minutes talking about why ending diets supports your health, because I really think stopping the diet mentality and really learning how to have awareness, how to listen to your body, and how to have a healthy relationship with yourself and food is so freeing. So that is one of the first things, is if you're struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, some form of eating disorder, please, I encourage you, get support, whether it's from me or somebody that you feel safe and comfortable reaching out to. But whomever you pick, they ideally should be able to understand what you're going through, and they should be able to help you gain freedom. So if you've been going and seeing someone for years and you're still struggling, you may want to try something different, because I truly believe that with time it should improve and get a lot better. And maybe it only then happens like once in a while instead of daily, weekly, monthly. But building a healthy relationship with your food and with your body image and building self-love are so important. And these are things I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get help with. Also, I think it's important to understand your current state of health. So what current health challenges do you have? What physical symptoms are you struggling with? Do you have low energy? Do you want to investigate your hormones? Do you have digestive bloating and gas and suspect you may have food sensitivities, right? Like, do you have current things you've been diagnosed with? So it's like getting and understanding the current state of health is so important, because from there, I'm able to understand your body more, and then I can make proper recommendations. But if I don't know what's going on, it's more difficult to make recommendations. And that's where things kind of start to get messy, because if you have all these things going on, but then you just read something and go and do it, it may have a negative impact on your health. That's why it's so important to get support, because some of these recommendations can be so innocent. It could be as innocent as someone with high blood pressure going, oh, grapefruit seed extract is great for getting rid of candida, but not then reading that it's also bad for high blood pressure. And then they go on it and potentially have negative implications with their health. So I think it's so important to get support from somebody who you feel safe with. Again, whomever that is, someone who you feel very confident with that can help you with your struggles. I know this has been, very important for me in the coaching that I provide to my clients, and that I also have looked for as I've navigated my own health journey as well. Ending restriction, ending extreme diets, overcoming food fears, building food courage, building a healthy relationship with food, and being supported to build awareness and learn how to listen to your body are all very, very important, vital parts. Body freedom, of food freedom, of having optimal health, and learning how to undo the diet mentality is also important. And that's something that I always work with my clients on as well, because it's an old pattern that is not supportive. So these are some things that are supported with your health when you decide to stop dieting. Also, you gain so much energy back because you're not draining it, worrying and fussing over trying to be perfect on your diet. You don't have to worry about counting calories anymore. You don't have to measure your food or weigh your food. You're not restricting. You get to have the best of both worlds, because you learn how to have mindfulness with food, and that means nourishing your body well and also enjoying mindful indulgence. And it becomes a beautiful experience of life that you look forward to, versus something that you dread and just don't want to think about anymore, because it's consumed so much of your time and, mental, emotional health. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca /podcast/93. Remember, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health. So be sure to reach out and take action now. Have a beautiful day, a great week. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so. My handle is at amberapproved. And I am looking very forward to all the wonderful things to come with a new website, new podcast next week. And again, thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful and thankful for every one of you. I hope you have a beautiful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing with you again next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at amberromaniak. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.